Right, before we start, Barry, congratulations. The day's the day. First game of your new tender.
Right.
How are you prepared? How are you feeling?
As best as we can. We trained on Monday after giving the nod. We had a few trialists down. We had 14 or 15 St Anne's boys doing, which wasn't a bad start. But we had a few unhappy players within the camp. Some trained, some didn't. Some deals were done before I got in the door, which was unfortunate. I'd like to have a chat with them, but if people aren't wanting to stay put, there's no point keeping them. So the club sec had sorted that out, but we'll hope to balance things at the end of the season and put some points on the board. That's definitely what the aim is.
I mean, I've not met the kind of new chairman and that, but he's been very welcoming. Obviously, I had me a few chats and it made everybody feel welcome. So it seems like a good partnership. It seems like things are going to work, but we're not here to talk about that. You asked me to do background stuff with your team before, and that involved media.
Yep.
The past 2 days, my phone's been blown up with nonsense, absolute nonsense. People, making stories out of nothing, people greeting. I mean, I've never seen adults greet so much in their lives. Now, don't get me wrong. The way it's happened, I do feel sorry in a sense. However, there's two sides to the story. I'll give you my view. Just a quick brief, then we'll everything that you've experienced as your first time as a manager in the junior. So you asked me to join a few months ago.
Yep.
You had a strong background with your coaches and all that, but you're doing it all yourself.
Yeah, and the latter part in particular, for at least the last 6 months anyway.
Like I say, you're going to go through all of this, well, I'll go through all of it and you'll explain everything that's happened to you, but doing all of it yourselves, skip forward, chairman didn't want anything to do with the team.
In a nutshell, yeah. His thoughts were that a meeting had taken place and internally within the club without me even knowing at the time, and they had wanted to fold the team in December. They said it wasn't anything to do with the hard work, it wasn't anything to do with the team, it was a purely financial decision. And I had said that if the finances were that strained, then I'm more than happy to raise funds week to week, month to month to keep the team afloat. And they said, right, we'll come back to you. They tried to fold it on a Wednesday night when I was on the way to training. I discussed it with the players done exactly what I knew they would say, and it was just echoing what I'd said. And they had said that they would do everything they could to keep the team afloat to at least the end of the season, and we could maybe cross that bridge. But the stance from BSC was that they wanted to fold the team and basically cut their losses. They said that there wasn't enough money coming in to sustain it, and that was it in a nutshell.
Aye. So he cut ties, which left everything in you, left the home park in you, keeping the squad, and the main focus was sustainability for next season. Now, you applied to other teams for help regarding home pitch, because obviously him no one involved kicked us out the pitch. That's fine. So it came to a point where all avenues were exhausted. A few weeks ago you put out a statement, but we put out a statement that your best efforts, it wasn't happening, so the team was going to dispel at the end of the season and all players were free, which is a perfect thing. So you had scouts coming to all the games after that. You have probably had players going in trial, going to other training. So you're trying to keep this team afloat to the end of the season while other players are kind of trying to secure their future, which is absolutely fine.
Yeah, we told the boys that we, once we got to the kind of March area, we would know where we stood, if we were able to proceed into next season or if we weren't. And I'd spoke to a couple of teams regarding ground shares, which unfortunately fell through. It was always going to be a long shot. The league had advised that they were looking for something for stability, because they didn't want to have to see a team start to no finish. And the league were fully aware on what was going on. A lot of the responsibility was passed to myself, and I'd done my utmost to keep it afloat to the end of the season. When we'd spoken to the players and we said that, listen, we really do want to finish it, but I'm going to source clubs for you, people are going to be in touch, and several players are now signed elsewhere. You know, there's a few at New Mains, there's a few on their way to Giffnock, and you know, there's not going to be a shortage of players that's going to be wanted, because albeit it was a young squad, it was in the bottom half of the table, which is probably where it was going to finish, but that doesn't necessarily mean that there wasn't attractive suitable clubs that were willing to take them, and that's what's happened. So it's worked out well for the players, really well.
I mean, players will always find other teams, especially you know at that age, and obviously people sniffing about the fact that they're 3 as well.
Yeah.
So the player side was fine. The team to the end of the season, yep, going for that. So you had players going out in training, players looking at other clubs looking at players. Then you need to look at yourself. So you were applying for a few jobs, and obviously either heard nothing back or refused, or they found somebody else, right? So that's part and parcel.
Yeah.
You were in a chat with an amateur team that was progressing, it was fine. So you're trying to secure your future and your staff after this season. Now, St Anne's came up, and I can remember when you saying that, oh, you went for it. Now, I don't know anything about this, right? So I don't know if they wanted somebody in straight away, somebody for next season, but it was a quick turnaround.
Yeah, so the my understanding was that St Anne's had a mutual agreement with the coaches and in charge, and you know, I don't know the circumstances, it's none of my business. I spoke to Martin about it, and you know, we agreed to just kind of, you know, we'll just leave it, you know, it's leave dogs lie, it's none of your concern. And I'd spoke to Martin initially on the phone for about 5 minutes on Sunday night, about 10 o'clock, and I just said I was interested, would they consider me at the end of the season? He said he would come back to me, and then we met on Monday afternoon. He outlined everything that he was needing, I outlined everything that I was looking for and the stuff that I'd been through, and we managed to hash it out and sort it within about half an hour. And initially the role is to go to the end of the season and put some points on the board, and then providing everybody's happy and things are going the right direction, then I'll be there for the summer. But that's a club decision, that'll remain with them, it's not my decision. But I like the look of the club and I like how everything's going, and I'm really positive about how I can do down there.
Right, so obviously, like it says, there's been a lot of negativity online with the jump, with the team folding, this and that, and like, again, we do sympathise. I mean, there's teams that have taken points off us, there's teams that haven't. So I mean, league rules. The whole thing was to finish the season, but when you hear all this and what the guys put up with, you'll kind of understand. I mean, if it happened to you, I mean, it's a no-brainer. It's a no-brainer. So, like I say, we're not here for the St Anne's, we are here for this big essay. Right. So, you started off at BSC. Let me see. On-field performances. So, the season before, they were the worst team in semi-pro.
Yeah.
You inherited the team without any players, maybe one or two?
No, none.
None? Oh, right, okay.
We didn't get. I think it was Lewis Kane and John with only two, but they didn't arrive until the second or third week.
Right, okay, so
when the club never did any details for them.
Right, no players. So no players. You had to recruit for the 19s and the 20s. Strips, requested updates and strips, and we were assured that it'd be here for the start of the season. Heard nothing of that. Training gear, best of quality, nothing of that. So let's take step by step. Right, so the team you built yourself, like say young guys.
Yep.
Right? You started to get results, but at the start of that you have got strips. What was the fiasco with the starting of the strips?
So when we came in, the first conversation we had was, where's the players for last year? And the club had said that they weren't sure if they wanted any, but they didn't have any details. So obviously I'm walking in with nothing. And then we managed, I'd spoke to obviously the players that I did have, because we were only just in the door at Mary Hill, so we'd asked Mary Hill nicely if they wouldn't mind cancelling the agreement and bringing everybody over, and they agreed to do so. Once that had kicked off, obviously we're then looking at image. We wanted the training gear. The club provided training gear. It wasn't the absolute best of quality, but it did the job short term anyway. So we had a wee bit of that. And then obviously we're looking at strips and mid friendlies coming up, and the club never had any strips worth looking for. We were handed Adidas Broomhill kits from the Broomhill Lowland League setup, which done short term, but they just didn't fit anybody. With guys, you know, that were trying to squeeze into medium and large tops that were over 6 feet, just they weren't suitable. The club did say that they'd ordered strips and they would get them here before the start of the season, but they never materialised, and many of them having to wait until October to get them. I had to listen to the boys moaning, and then I was going back and forth with the board, and they said, you're just going to get on with it. The stuff that I had wasn't sufficient for a semi-professional team. So I went back to our old kitman at Singer and bought the strips that he had and rebadged them, because I knew they would fit, and we used those for the first 3 months of the season.
Yeah,
So it wasn't ideal.
No, also that goes with the tracksuits as well.
Tracksuits, there was they said that they would look into it if they get sponsors, but they never had anything to offer, and they never had any sponsors lined up. So we helped with that as well, but the sponsors is a different story.
Yeah, it's. I mean, there's a lot of things, a lot of things here. Money in for the team. I mean, like you say, it's a semi-pro. People pay to come watch. People get sponsored. How's the finances looking?
From our point of view, we never took anything to do with the finances up until December, but the club had advised that you should really push for player sponsorship. It's worth £80 per player, and the money would be utilised within the club. When they'd said that I'd assumed that the money was going to be utilised through the team, because the money we were bringing in was going towards them. But there was players that did get sponsored, and there was nothing given them back in return. So some of the player sponsorships wasn't spelt correctly. They had incorrect names, wrong images, wrong names on them, and it just wasn't very tidy. Messy work. You meant to get a season ticket and a scarf or a hat or something like that. I think the arrangement was with them. I don't think anybody received any of them, so a lot of the players were pretty angry with that. And we were only in the middle of pre-season or whatever. So the boys had spoke privately and says that they weren't going to be going into any further player sponsorships until things were stumped up. I checked in with the club, and the club had said that they were working on it, but that was as far as it went.
Yeah, but I mean, they found it alright to pay somebody to do social media, a wee boy.
The lad was doing the social media, and he was on expenses.
Travel expenses paid with the club.
He was on travel expenses, and we could sit and rummage together.
I mean, the whole thing with the media, then, it's to give the club a good light to get them out there. Also, we had a bad season beforehand. That's all it was. I mean, that's how I was happy to do it. I mean, then you look at the analytics and the socials, it was up to 6,000 views a week.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't even just for our club; it was for the whole structure. But I mean, he messaged you to tell me to stop. I mean, that's nonsense.
So they'd asked Jimmy, who was our goalkeeper coach, who was quite handy to do this stuff.
Yeah.
And he was sending me generic media stuff that we were able to use, and the club had said that they didn't want that being used because it never came from them. And my response to that was that, well, why don't we send it to you and you can post it and we can repost it, because we had our own coaches page, and they'd responded saying that we shouldn't be speaking on behalf of the club and we should terminate that page, or at least give them control of it. But my response to that was, we need posts going out for next fixture, maybe something a bit closer to the Friday, and then on the Friday itself, and then we would take control of the media stuff on the Saturday and get everything posted through Twitter, Insta, TikTok and whatnot, and they said they really didn't want it, even though it showed that it was really helping and working. And the social media isn't just about putting the word out. We had recruited a lot of players through Instagram, and I told them that at the start. If I'm in control of Instagram and we can follow the right players and broadcast how well we're doing, we won't need to go and contact players at youth or amateur. They'll contact us, and then we can take them in and develop them. The club just didn't have any interest in having our say on that, and that was a proper clash. They told us to cease that, which we didn't, because they refused to put posts out when we needed them, and we did. And it wasn't it wasn't because we were being petulant, it's because it was what the team needed at the time.
I mean, this is a 10-page thing there that every single thing that you experience through it, you end up missing the day's game if you go through it. So what I'll do is I'm going to type this up and put this on after this. We'll post everything for everybody to read, and hopefully the ones that have messaged going, could you stop the 4 games, or why have you jumped, have a read at this and tell me what you use would they, because we'll cut it rather than me reading for this. Everything that was rang, can you sum it up straight away, just through bit by bit? I mean, I'll give you an example. They kicked us out. They kicked us out of a park. Then when we were trying to source parks, how much were you want for the grass park?
So initially they'd said in a meeting in I think it was January, when they were really pushing to close everything off for the West of Scotland team. I'd get an email and the club secretary said that there was not going to be anything further forward, Barry. If you're taking the team forward, you need to respond to me in 24 hours or the team's going to fold. So I'd phoned them and I said, you need to give me a meeting to run through this, and I can give you a business plan, and we can afford to run the team. We just needed to get to the end of the season and then we could appeal for sponsorship, which was already lined up. We'd spoke to 2 businesses and they were happy to put in a few £1,000 each, which would have really kept us afloat and ahead of the curve. They had said that the pitch unfortunately was going to be out of use due to some plumbing issues, and there was no estimated date as to when it was going to be fixed. But they were still happy to have their youth games and that played on it because of the rules are slightly different when you go down the ladder. But I'd spoken to them in February, March and said that we wanted to play our games at Peterson Park to cover the cost of the running things, because we were in for about 150 quid in training and 250 quid per home game, because we were playing it at largely Springburn Park with an agreement with Kilsyth where they were happy for us to use the park for a set fee as well, but the figures weren't really differing too much. But we knew if we played at Peterson, granted BSC weren't charging ridiculous money. I initially offered them 50 or 100 quid just to get some games down there so we could save money. The club had said they would come back to me, and then turned around and says that if I wanted to play games down there, they wanted £130 per game, followed by £170 for next season if we got permission to fulfil out the season next year. So that was a bit of a blow, and I didn't react too well to it. I felt it was, I thought it was a low blow that they couldn't even offer us a pitch, which as standards go, it's a run-of-the-mill pitch, it's no exceptional, or it is literally just barriers around a grass pitch, and it's no dig towards the club and that, but that is their pitch. It cost them very, very little to use it. We always cleaned up after ourselves, we never left anything in a mess. We were washing our own strips, washing our own training gear. I found it really, really a hard one to take, that they didn't want us to go down there unless there was money exchanged.
I mean, this was their team. To abandon it like that rather than continue to the end of the season, then pull the plug. I mean, it's crazy. From the start of the season, no players you built, all like under 18s, 19s, 20s, a youthful team, to no kits, to poor media, to then to stop me doing the media, then to say, not to pull the plug, Then to kind of offer you parks for 170 quid.
Well, they took the training kits away as well.
Took the training kits away.
The training slots rather.
Then
So that was the first thing they did before
Aye.
I got control. So they cancelled all the training kit, the training lets. So in the second week of January we didn't have anywhere to train. So I managed to get a couple of places short term, and then we secured something that wasn't really suitable, and then we trained at Springburn Park for a period. But they,
was there notice of cancellation, or was it just there and then?
No, they 24 hours.
24 hour notice.
So they emailed me on the Thursday night after we trained Monday, Wednesday. I spoke to the club on the phone, and they said that they were basically, that was the last week that the team was going to be going ahead, and then they emailed me and said that they had reviewed my business plan, because we didn't want to leave our training slots. We were happy to pay for our share, and they could have brought youth teams to take the other half of the pitch, and that was fundamentally going to be used for the 20s, which wasn't there, so obviously it's cost them money. And they just took the entire slot off us and kicked us to one side, and obviously then I found out later that the home pitch was unusable, sorry. And yeah, I had control of a team, but I had no home pitch and no training slots. How was I going to function unless I moved quickly? And that was probably the bit that hurt the most. Yeah, you can take control of the team, Barry, but you've no way to play and you've no way to train.
Aye, then you get a text message telling you that he wants his strips back.
Yeah, so they said that we were in the middle of, I think it was end of February, and when we were trying to get the home pitch sorted to play our remaining games in March and April at Peterson, they'd said that they wanted their strips back at the end of the season or whenever, right when we were in the thick of it. And I was like, I think that's a conversation you can have with me at the end of the season. So they'd even asked for a couple of spare kits to show their sponsors, which we returned, but grudgingly.
There's been no support since I've seen it. There's just been no support. Like I say, everything Barry's went in depth in this 10-pager, which I will put up. There's probably a lot we've not covered again. We're not going to go on the whole bloody day. But these are the reasons that it's pushed. I mean, he was happy to go next season, planning for next season, the teams, the players, but there's only so much you can do before, it's not worth it. I mean, you need the chairman to back you, and what Barry's been offered with St Anne's, I mean, it's too good to turn down. Like I said, the players have went to other teams or they've joined St Anne's, so nobody's at a loss yet, apart from obviously the guys in the league. Again, it wasn't intentional, it wasn't at West Park, it wasn't to benefit EKYM. It's something that happened that it couldn't go on. But you can make up your own mind, but this was all to do with all the negative remarks sent in social media, and it actually brought St Anne's into it, which it had really nothing to do with them. They only offered the job, Barry accepted. So
on that, the main reason why the team folded, and this was what was told to me by BSC, was that if I couldn't take the team forward with that 24-hour notice period, the team was going to fold there and then. And they'd said that if I decided to walk at any point, the team would fold. They wouldn't be sourcing another manager. They would just cancel it.
So you kept it going as long as possible. Then they would have folded this months ago.
It would have folded. It would have folded in the end of December when we were sitting ninth in the table.
So it's a testament to what you've done. I mean, 4 games is what it is. But I mean, it's again what we Tuesday. It's not as if he's just up and walked and just left a team in the shit. The team was in the shit anyway, with no backing. So I mean, the players are well, staff are moving on. But I said this was just to explain as to why things have happened and how they've happened. So make it what you will, guys. Right, let's go back up later on. Catches.
Cheers.